Chapter 1351. Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. Chu Lingfeng, go ahead. She looked at the big foolish man next to her. Did Bai Feng really think that she had escaped death by a fluke? How could Luo Qingtong allow her to pass out just like that? After all, Yin Yang was still waiting for her to avenge her mother. Of course, Yin Yang did not have any cultivation, but it was the same for Chu Lingfeng to avenge her. After all, a son should avenge his mother. Furthermore, even though Yin Yang had not mentioned it, Luo Qingtong could vaguely guess that Chu Lingfeng's stupidity might have something to do with the fact that Yin Yang had been hunted down when she was pregnant. Under those circumstances, Yin Yang was already very lucky to have been able to keep her life. She probably would not have been able to take care of the child in her womb. Hence, Chu Lingfeng's revenge was perfectly justified. Yes. Chu Lingfeng obeyed Luo Qingtong's every word. In reality, ever since he had seen Bai Feng and found out that this woman was the main culprit who had almost killed his mother and caused her to suffer for the rest of her life, Chu Lingfeng had stared at Bai Feng with bloodshot eyes. He was like an enraged, ferocious beast as he stared fixedly at her. If not for the fact that his loyalty to Luo Qingtong had been engraved in his bones and that he could not act without his master's orders, Chu Lingfeng would have charged over without regard for anything else and torn this woman to shreds. When he heard Luo Qingtong's orders, his figure flashed and he immediately charged towards Bai Feng. Bai Feng, on the other hand, became even more vigilant when she realized that she was not affected by the knockout powder. The powerful cultivators were now engaged in a chaotic battle near the exit of the dungeon. When Bai Feng saw that no one was paying attention to her, her eyes turned gloomy and cold as she prepared to conceal herself and leave. Once she had left the area enveloped by the array, she would make sure that all the people and family who would die without a burial place. She was viciously swearing in her heart when suddenly, she heard a strong whooshing sound. The sound came from afar and it almost caused a series of sonic booms in the air. When it reached Bai Feng's ears, it was like a thunderclap. Boom. Bai Feng's face instantly turned pale with fright as the gust of wind blasted towards her. She desperately dodged to the side. At this moment she hated the fact that she was only a martial emperor. Furthermore, her cultivation had barely stabilized at the martial emperor realm. Regardless of whether it was her response or attack, she was much weaker than her previous strength. Bang! As Bai Feng dodged, the gust of wind brushed past her waist. With a loud bang she smashed into the hard limestone floor. In an instant, the huge bluestone slab, which was about 6 feet thick, was smashed open by the strong wind. The sky was filled with stone fragments and dust. At the side of Bai Feng's waist, where the gust of wind had brushed past, she instantly felt an intense pain as if her bones had been broken. It was so painful that Bai Feng could not help but cry out in pain. Ah! Her voice was sharp and in the next second she fell to the ground. Bang! At the place where the gust of wind had landed, the dust and smoke dispersed to reveal a tall and well-built figure. Bai Feng, you've harmed my mother. I want you to pay with your life. Chu Lingfeng's low, muffled voice rang out. In an instant, like thunder, the bones in his body suddenly made a series of cracking sounds. Chapter 1352. Bam. Chu Lingfeng's physique and the power of his attacks made him look like a human-shaped weapon that was filled with a ferocious aura. Bai Feng had just crawled up from the ground and quickly dodged to one side when she saw the situation. Boom, boom, boom. As Chu Lingfeng threw out punch after punch, the surrounding air and ground shattered like dust. The energy ripples that spread out were like water ripples in an instant. The strong winds from Chu Lingfeng's attacks actually formed a substantial vortex of spiritual energy in the air. One should know that his powers had only just reached the martial emperor level. Now it seemed that he could completely defeat Bai Feng. Bam. Bam, bam. Bai Feng's beautiful face turned pale as she retreated rapidly. Initially, she had been delusional in thinking that she could use her powers, which had once reached the peak of the martial spirit level, to fight back against Chu Lingfeng. After all, she had once reached that level. Even though her powers had been forced to decrease, her method of using her powers and experience would definitely be much better than an ordinary martial emperor. Therefore, even though Bai Feng's powers had only just reached the martial emperor level, she could still unleash powers that were far stronger than her current level. Logically speaking, her attacks should be able to restrain Chu Lingfeng's attacks. However, the latter's physique that allowed him to be unafraid of attacks was simply too terrifying. Bai Feng's attacks blasted out one after another, but Chu Lingfeng simply ignored them. Bai Feng's attacks were painful when they landed on his body. However, no matter how painful it was, could it be compared to the times when he had fought for his life in the bloody battle arena in order to increase his powers? To Bai Feng's attacks they were just like scratching an itch. Furthermore, as Bai Feng's attacks increased, his entire being became like a human-shaped ferocious beast that had been enraged and became even more violent. Bai Feng's face flashed with a look of panic as she was bombarded by such attacks. She could also feel how terrifying Chu Lingfeng was. Yen Yang's foolish son actually had such talent and physique in battle. Bai Feng's heart was filled with an indescribable jealousy. She knew that all of this was probably inherited from the man who had taken Yen Yang's virginity. If she had not sent people to chase after Yen Yang, causing the latter's fetus to be damaged, the current Chu Lingfeng might have been even more stunning. Thinking of this, Bai Feng's heart felt like it was being bitten by ants. If she had known that the man was so powerful, how could she have let Hu Yinyang take advantage of her? Bai Feng kept telling Yen Yang that the best thing she had done in her life was to snatch Hua Ting away. However, Hu knew that she was actually going crazy with regret. Because she had snatched Hua Ting away, but she had pushed another man who was even more powerful, to Hu Yinyang's side. If there was no Hu Yinyang, that man might have been hers. In the end, by the time she realized how powerful that man was, she had already hooked up with Hua Ting. She had no chance to seduce that man at all. In the end, he had no choice but to give the opportunity to his younger sister, Bai Xing. Now that she had left with that man, she did not know what kind of honorable life she was leading in that place. How could a mere young madam of the Hua family compare to that man's status? It was all Hu Yinyang's fault. Chapter 1353. Finally, he found a flaw in Bai Feng's movement technique, and he immediately closed in on Bai Feng. After taking one of Bai Feng's attacks head-on, he sent Bai Feng flying with a punch. Bai Feng never thought that Chu Lingfeng would be so ruthless. He would rather injure himself in order to take one of her attacks head-on in order to attack her. She was caught off guard and was sent flying by Chu Lingfeng's attack. This time she was not as lucky as she had been the last time. Chu Lingfeng's punch landed squarely on her chest, causing the left side of her chest to cave in and breaking 3 or 4 of her ribs. This time, she let out a shrill scream as she landed heavily on the ground, almost smashing a hole in the thick bluestone floor below. Chu Lingfeng's figure closed in on her again. Bai Feng had schemed against his mother for so many years and caused his mother to suffer so much. If they had not met his master, he and his mother would have died in some corner of the Blackfield subsidy of Eastern Fence Country. Chu Lingfeng's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he stared at Bai Feng. It was not the first time that he had seen his mother cry secretly because she missed his maternal grandfather and family who. His mother had suffered so much for the sake of raising him. He must avenge his mother. Bang! Chu Lingfeng's punch landed fiercely on Bai Feng. Bai Feng was lying on top of the huge hole in the ground. When she saw Chu Lingfeng's punch coming towards her, her face instantly contorted and changed. No! Bai Feng's expression changed drastically. In the next second, she seemed to have made up her mind as she gritted her teeth fiercely. This is not good. Chu Lingfeng, come back quickly. Not too far away, Luo Qingtong, who had been watching Chu Lingfeng and Bai Feng's battle with Yen Yang, suddenly narrowed her eyes. A sense of danger rose in her heart. Almost in the next second, her figure darted out and flew towards the place where Chu Lingfeng and Bai Feng were fighting. The moment Luo Qingtong moved, Bai Feng's figure suddenly changed in front of Chu Lingfeng. Suddenly, a pair of wings extended from her back, and limbs appeared under her armpits. She looked like a venomous insect. At the same time, the shadow of a huge venomous insect appeared behind her. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The guards of the Bai family who were knocked out by Luo Qingtong's incapacitating agent suddenly woke up from the intense pain after the threads entered their bodies. In an instant, an extremely sharp and miserable shriek came out of his mouth. Swoosh. Their bodies convulsed violently. Then, the power of the flesh and blood in their bodies dried up and dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, these people had been sucked dry and turned into dried corpses. Turning one's body into a venomous insect. Luo Qingtong frowned as she watched all this. What Bai Feng had just used was the most evil and cruel of all the venomous arts. This venomous art would harm both the enemy and the user. It should not be used casually. Although it was very powerful, the price to use it was also very frightening. Moreover, it was not something that an ordinary venomous insect user could use. Logically speaking, Bai Feng could not possibly use this venomous art. She must have borrowed the power of something. Chapter 1354. Luo Qingtong's guess was right. When Bai Feng obtained the Gu technique tome from her, she also obtained a Gu dissolving pill, which allowed her to use the Gu dissolving pill when she was in danger. However, the price she had to pay was extremely high. The price was at least 10 years of her lifespan. The longer she used this Gu technique, the more her lifespan would be consumed. At the same time, it would be extremely damaging to her body. If Bai Feng used this Gu technique, she could forget about advancing and breaking through in the future. Furthermore, she would not be able to use any of her powers for a year. She would be no different from a cripple. Therefore, Bai Feng had never thought of using the Gu dissolving pill after obtaining it. As the eldest daughter of the Bai family and the young madam of the Hua family, no one could force her to use this Gu dissolving pill. However, she had never thought that she would be forced to use this Gu dissolving pill in the hands of Hu Yenyang's son, whom she despised and disdained the most. Bam. As Bai Feng absorbed the strength of the Bai family guards like a Gu worm, her aura instantly soared. Her strength, which had fallen to the level of a martial emperor, quickly recovered. Not only that, but she had also broken through to the saint stage and was about to surpass the saint stage. Boom. After absorbing the strength of the flesh and blood of the guards, Bai Feng's limbs instantly became as sharp as blades and slashed towards Chu Lingfeng. The latter was attacking her with all his might and could not avoid this attack at all. Even if Chu Lingfeng stopped immediately, he would not be able to avoid it. Chu Lingfeng. Luo Qingtong's figure leaped behind Chu Lingfeng at this moment. Lower your head. As Luo Qingtong's figure appeared, Chu Lingfeng immediately lowered his head obediently. He did not care that the limb in front of him was about to slash at him. Luo Qingtong held the 1,000-year soul guiding wood in her left hand and unsheathed the life and death yin-yang sword in her right hand. Almost instantly, the black and white long sword in her hand transformed into the shape of a living blade. A milky white light danced on both ends of the long sword. Bam! Luo Qingtong raised her hand to block. The sword light instantly blocked the limbs that were slashing towards her. Then she raised her hand and waved it. Heaven battling art. The living blade absorbed the living blade and the dead blade transformed. At the same time, the power of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood rushed into Luo Qingtong's hand and into the life and death yin-yang sword's attack. Boom! A black light flashed. In an instant, the huge blade of light was like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. It dragged a huge long tail of light and blocked the legs that were slashing at him. However, the power carried by the limbs was so strong that it collided with the sword light from Luo Qingtong's life and death two right sword almost instantly. In an instant, a violent storm of energy was emitted from the place where the two sides collided, raging and spreading in all directions. Luo, two of the Luo of Luo Luo, of Luo Luo of course of the Luo Luo Luo. Bam! Luo Qingtong Luo was sent flying. His back was a bloody mess. He crashed to the ground almost instantly. Chu Lingfeng. Luo Qingtong Luo landed on the ground. Before she could check on Chu Lingfeng's condition, Bai Feng's attack came again. Today all of you will die. Bai Feng was crawling on all fours on the ground. The limbs that protruded from her body supported her back, making her look like a huge spider. Chapter 1355. She raised one of her legs and jabbed it towards Luo Qingtong. Once she killed this young man, she would be able to kill Hu Yenyang and her son. Then she would leave this area enveloped by the spell and gather the Bai and Hua family members. All the members of the Bai and families who had come today would all die. Bai Feng's expression was cold and stern. Her legs were like countless sharp blades as they jabbed towards Luo Qingtong. Bang bang bang. Luo Qingtong's figure flickered. The light in her eyes was as red as blood. Her figure kept darting and dodging Bai Feng's attacks. After Bai Feng's power had increased, she was indeed difficult to deal with. After all, surpassing the Saint Realm was not comparable to the Saint Realm. If Bai Feng was at the Saint Realm, Luo Qingtong could still think of a way to deal with him. Furthermore, Bai Feng's Gu technique was different from ordinary Gu techniques. Before Bai Feng's lifespan was exhausted, she would not be able to break it. Most importantly, Luo Qingtong frowned. The power of the 1,000-year-old soul guiding wood in her hand was gone. When she had blocked Bai Feng's attack earlier, she had used the death energy that had formed after the guards had died. In addition to the remaining power of the 1,000-year-old soul guiding wood, she was able to block Bai Feng's attack. However, she had no way of retaliating now. Luo Qingtong frowned as she thought of this. Bang bang bang. Her figure darted through Bai Feng's attacks. Bai Feng's heart grew more and more terrified. When Luo Qingtong had blocked her attack towards Chu Lingfeng, Bai Feng had not paid much attention to it. She had only thought that Chu Lingfeng had hidden some life-saving technique on him. Now that she saw Luo Qingtong's figure moving through her attacks with ease, her heart froze. Who on earth was this young man? How could a martial great realm cultivator dodge her attacks time and time again when she had increased her power to surpass the Saint Realm? Once could be a fluke. So many times it was definitely not a fluke. This young man was definitely not an ordinary person. Bai Feng was shocked. Her attention was completely diverted to Luo Qingtong. At the same time, his killing intent towards Luo Qingtong was ignited. The other party was so powerful. Whether it was because of her talent or something else, since she was on Hu Yenyang's side, then she had to die. Otherwise he would definitely become a huge threat to them. Bai Feng made a prompt decision. Swoosh, threads of energy suddenly burst out from her body and shot towards Luo Qingtong. Those threads of energy were the same attack that Bai Feng had used to absorb the flesh and blood energy of those guards. Once they came into contact with it, their energy would be immediately absorbed by White Phoenix. The power of those threads instantly weaved like a net and swept towards Luo Qingtong. Rip! A blood-red light flashed in Luo Qingtong's eyes. Her figure shifted and dodged the threads of energy that were like a spider's web. However, the power of those threads was extremely violent. In an instant, the sleeves of Luo Qingtong's robes were sliced open by the power of the threads of energy from the heaven and earth. In the next second, a furry little thing fell out from within. That silvery fur, the tip of a pink nose and a large, soft, fluffy tail. It was the little fox that Yi Chenxian had transformed into. Inbao. Chapter 1356. Haha. Seeing this scene, Bai Feng immediately laughed out loud. She was worried that she wouldn't be able to catch Luo Qingtong's weakness. Her opponent was as slippery as a loach. She didn't know how she could see through her attacks, but she couldn't catch her. But it didn't matter. If her opponent wanted to save this little fox, then it was her chance. Seeing Luo Qingtong rush towards the little fox, Bai Feng's expression was cold. Almost instantly, the power of the silk threads around her body suddenly rushed towards Luo Qingtong. But this time she learned her lesson. She knew that Luo Qingtong had a special ability that allowed her to avoid her attacks. If she rushed towards her opponent like before, she would definitely be seen through by her opponent, and she might even be able to avoid it. Thinking of this, the silk threads that rushed out from her body suddenly spread out in all directions. Swish swish swish. As the silk threads flew around her body, they instantly surrounded Luo Qingtong within 100 meters of her body, trapping her in the middle. Then Bai Feng laughed out loud and tightened the power of the silk threads. Luo Qingtong scooped up the little silver fox in her arms and raised her head to see the power of the silk threads surrounding her from all directions. Different from before, the power of the silk threads had formed a prison, trapping Luo Qingtong completely. Even if Luo Qingtong had an eye technique, her opponent's silk threads had already formed a prison and there was no way for her to avoid it. Seeing this scene, Luo Qingtong's eyebrows furrowed slightly. In her arms, Yi Chenxian's body moved slightly. Previously, he had forcefully used the power that was sealed within the little silver fox's body by the fox demon blood curse and fell into a deep sleep. Now that he had recovered a little, he was immediately alarmed by the commotion outside and opened his eyes. At the same time, Bai Feng suddenly waved the limbs that extended from her body and slashed towards Luo Qingtong. The power that surpassed the Saint Realm was extremely fierce and it caused the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the surroundings to go berserk. Like a violent storm, it rushed towards Luo Qingtong. The power of the silk threads continued to tighten and they were getting closer and closer to Luo Qingtong. Bai Feng wanted Luo Qingtong to have no way to avoid it and no way to escape. As Bai Feng's violent attack approached, Yi Chenxian also discovered the danger that Luo Qingtong was in. He thought for a moment and recalled that Luo Qingtong was trapped in this fatal trap because of this little fox's body. But, damn it, this fox demon blood curse. Yi Chenmin had always looked down on everyone and was invincible. He had never thought that there would be a day when his woman would be trapped in order to save him. This was the greatest humiliation of his life. Yi Chenxian's fox-like face was cold. However, he was too small and too adorable. Even though he had put on such a stern expression, Luo Qingtong felt that he was too adorable. Thinking that he had been frightened by the unforeseen event, Luo Qingtong gently patted his little head to comfort him. She then looked coldly at Bai Feng who was laughing evilly as she attacked. Her mind was racing as she tried to think of a way to escape. Yi Chenxian's face turned green when Luo Qingtong patted him on the head like a child would. However, when he saw that the young girl was in such a dangerous situation, he could not be bothered to dwell on this. Whoosh. Chapter 1357. Silver Bow. Luo Qingtong was prepared to take Bai Feng's attack head-on. Countless ideas flashed through her mind but none of them would allow her to escape unscathed. The main reason was that Bai Feng's power had surpassed the Saint state. If it had been at the Saint state, given Luo Qingtong's enhanced eye powers, she would have been able to analyze the internal structure of those threads in a short amount of time. She would have been able to cut them off and escape with ease. But now she did not have enough time to analyze them and could only take them head-on. However, just as she made this decision, her arms suddenly became empty. Instantly, the little silver fox, which had been lying obediently in her arms, leaped out. Then, under Luo Qingtong's astonished gaze, it suddenly raised its paw. It matched the 10-directional dragon ring on its little paw with the 9 netherworld phoenix ring on Luo Qingtong's left ring finger. In an instant, the dragon and phoenix joined together head to tail. Before Luo Qingtong could react, a familiar aura of power surged into Luo Qingtong's body. This is Yi Qianxian's aura of power. Luo Qingtong was no stranger to this aura of power that had surged into her body. After all, to be able to surge into her body and be accepted by the aura in her body without any resistance, who else could it be but that man's power? But how could Silver Bao use Yi Qianxian's aura of power? Luo Qingtong stared at the little silver fox in a daze. Before she could think any further, Bai Feng's attack had already arrived in front of her. That violent and sharp wind split the sky in an instant. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth around Luo Qingtong was completely frozen. It was as if it had turned into an extremely hard metal cage, squeezing her in the middle. Those threads of power also carried a sinister and cold aura as they came from all directions to bind her. A two-pronged attack. Bai Feng did not believe that Luo Qingtong would be able to escape from her hands. The limbs that danced around her flashed with a sharp and cold light in the air. They had serrated barbs as they slashed fiercely at Luo Qingtong. The shadow of the goo worm behind her also raised its head and roared soundlessly. Boom. Following Bai Feng's attack, Luo Qingtong quickly regained her senses. She no longer thought about the little silver fox. Instead, she focused all her attention on facing Bai Feng's attack. Whoosh. Luo Qingtong moved forward and grabbed the silver fox from the back of her hand. At the same time, bang! The life and death sword soared in Luo Qingtong's hands. In an instant, the power that Yi Qianren poured into her body was like thunder, rumbling and exploding into the black death blade in her hand. In an instant, a ray of light shot out 3 feet. Following that, Luo Qingtong's figure leaped up and she waved her hand. Heaven battling art. After receiving Yi Qianxian's Luo Qingtong's blood-red pupils spun rapidly. She immediately copied Yi Qianxian's heaven battling art in its most perfect state. One sword to destroy heaven. Steal heaven's fortune. Its power was vast and mighty like the setting sun in the Milky Way. Boom. Luo Qingtong's sword slashed out. In an instant heaven and earth shook, and blood split the sky. The threads of power that were surrounding Luo Qingtong were all cut off. They turned into ashes in the air. Chapter 1358. What? Bai Feng's eyes instantly widened at the sight of this. She had thought that Luo Qingtong was definitely going to die. She had revealed a smug and arrogant smile on her face just a moment ago. However, in the next second, her smile turned into panic and fear. No. This is impossible. As soon as the last miserable cry resounded, Bai Feng's figure was instantly blasted flying. She'd been blasted flying by that ray of light. Ah! Bai Feng screamed in agony. The shadow of the goo worm behind her had been destroyed in an instant. The limbs that had extended from her body and the wings on her back had disappeared in an instant. Ah! Her body landed heavily on the ground. This time Bai Feng did not manage to get up. This is impossible. This is impossible. Her cultivation had surpassed the martial saint level, but she had been sent flying by a martial ancestor. Bai Feng lay on the ground on the verge of death. She could not believe that she had lost to Luo Qingtong. She could have killed Luo Qingtong with a single strike. However, her opponent's power had suddenly increased exponentially. She had defeated her in the end. What is going on? How could such a thing have happened? Bai Feng was in disbelief. At this moment, with a few bangs, the battle on Hu Zhongtian's side had also ended. Bai Changfeng and the others had landed not too far away from Bai Feng. A group of people from the Bai family had gathered. Pfft. Bai Changfeng and the others spat out a mouthful of blood. Many of them had fallen to the ground and lost consciousness. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Bai Changfeng and a few others with higher cultivations had also fallen to the ground. They had clearly suffered serious injuries. Dong. Hu Zhongtian and the others landed next to Luo Qingtong. Young master. Luo Qingtong's expression was calm as she looked at Chu Lingfeng. The latter had already gotten up with Yen Yang's help. Although his injuries were serious because of his physique, it was not a big problem. Ninth brother, Chu Lingfeng scratched his head and looked at Luo Qingtong like a child who had done something wrong. He almost caused an accident to Luo Qingtong just now. Only the heavens knew that when he and Yen Yang saw Luo Qingtong being surrounded by Feng's energy threads, their hearts almost stopped. If something really happened to Master because of him, he didn't want to live anymore. With that thought in mind, Chu Lingfeng glared fiercely at Bai Feng, who was lying on the ground, unable to move. It's all because of this bad woman, she almost hurt Master. Chu Lingfeng's gaze was ferocious, and Hu Yenyang's gaze towards Bai Feng was also abnormally cold. Young Master, please leave her to me, Hu Yenyang said coldly. Bai Feng had caused her to be so miserable, and she had almost caused their family Hu to be destroyed. And just now she had tried to kill Luo Qingtong. Hu Yenyang would definitely not let her die so easily. She would let Bai Feng know what was called hell on earth. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded indifferently. Then her figure flashed and she appeared next to Bai Feng. She raised her hand and struck towards Bai Feng's dantian. She wanted to cripple Bai Feng's strength so that Yen Yang could deal with her. After all, the latter did not have any strength. Luo Qingtong did not want Bai Feng to hurt Yen Yang. Chapter 1359. Stop it. Seeing this scene, the group of people who had just entered the inner courtyard suddenly froze. Then the man in the lead immediately cried out, "My husband." Hearing this voice, Bai Feng's face, which was already filled with despair, was suddenly shocked. Then she cried out in surprise, "My husband, save me." The moment they heard Bai Feng's cry, the faces of the people from the family Hu family and the other family clans froze. Husband. The only person who could be called husband by Bai Feng was. They all turned around and looked in the direction of the voice. On the other hand, Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed fiercely. Bang! Her palm did not stop at all as it landed directly on Bai Feng's body in front of her horrified eyes. Ah! Bai Feng's body suddenly fell to the ground and began to roll continuously. Luo Qingtong's palm had not only penetrated her dantian and smashed it into pieces, it had also destroyed all the meridians in her body. In an instant, Bai Feng was like a deflated balloon. The energy in her body was leaking out continuously. Ah! My power, my power! Bai Feng cried out in despair. Previously, Luo Qingtong had used the mother parasite to devour most of her power and give it to Hu Fei. That was enough to make her collapse. Now, Luo Qingtong had completely destroyed her cultivation and reduced her to an ordinary person. How could Bai Feng tolerate such a difference? Furthermore, it was in front of the people from the Hua family. What prestige did the young mistress of the Hua family have after losing her power? Bai Feng's face was filled with horror. She did not expect Luo Qingtong to be so daring. The people from the Hua family had already arrived and she had already called out the word, husband. How dare the other party attack her? Bai Feng's heart was filled with pain and despair. She almost fainted. When Luo Qingtong attacked, the group of people who had rushed in from outside the Bai family's inner courtyard were also furious. Bastard! How dare you? A figure suddenly rushed out from the group of people and appeared beside Luo Qingtong in an instant. A palm shot towards Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong stood in place without moving. Hu Zhongqian, Hu Fei, and the others immediately rushed forward and stood in front of her. Bang! Hu Zhongqian and the newcomer's palms collided. In an instant, a violent gust of wind shot out in all directions. Both of them took a step back at the same time. Young master. Father. Hu Fei and the others quickly appeared beside Hu Zhongqian. A group of people from the Hua family also appeared in front of the person who attacked Luo Qingtong. Young master, are you all right? One of the Hua clan's elders asked. I'm fine. Hua Ting's expression was cold. He looked at Hu Zhongqian and the others. Why did you attack my wife? And the Bai family? Hua Ting had received news from Bai Changfeng earlier. The latter had thought that the family whose item was in the bag and had sent a message to Hua Ting, asking him to bring the Hua family's people here. When the time came, Bai Feng would explain the origin of the map of the sage monarch's tomb that she had obtained from the family Hu. It was guaranteed to be flawless. When the time came, the Bai family could rely on the Hua family's strength to obtain the benefits of the sage monarch's tomb map. Chapter 1360. Hua Ting's expression turned cold as he looked at the injured and dead Bai family members around him, as well as the obvious signs of a brutal attack. Especially Bai Feng. As his wife and the young madam of the Hua family, her powers had been crippled. Hua Ting looked furious. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly rang out. The Bai family members have only themselves to blame. Their crimes are all written in these scrolls that are scattered all over the floor. They schemed against my family who and almost destroyed my family who. Not only that, the Bai family also tampered with other family clans. Let's settle our grievances with each other and take revenge with each other. What's wrong? As this voice rang out, Hu Yinyang's eyes turned cold as she turned around and stood in front of Luo Qingtong. Hua Ting, didn't the Hua family insist that family who give you an explanation? Now, this is the explanation we are giving you. It's been more than 10 years. I think it's not too late to give you an explanation. As Hu Yinyang spoke, she lifted her leg and kicked Bai Feng away in front of all the Hua family members. Bai Feng no longer had any powers left. With great difficulty, she controlled the twisted and hopeless expression on her face. She wanted to cry and complain to Hua Ting about what Hu Zhongtian and the others had done. She wanted to use her status as the young madam of the Hua family to slap them in the face. However, before she could speak, Hu Yinyang kicked her away. Instantly, Bai Feng screamed in agony and fell flat on her face on the ground. Bai Feng climbed to her feet with great difficulty. She was about to lash out at Hu Yinyang and complain to Hua Ting when the latter's voice suddenly rang out. Mother Yin. Hua Ting stared at Hu Yinyang in shock. This woman had changed so much compared to before. She was cold, heroic, graceful, and noble. Hua Ting looked at Hu Yinyang in disbelief. If not for the fact that the woman's face had not changed and that he had remembered her face all these years, Hua Ting would have thought that he had mistaken her for someone else. That's right. It's me. Compared to Hua Ting's excitement, Hu Yinyang's expression was cold and indifferent. She raised her hand and picked up a scroll on the ground. Together with the evidence of what the Bai family had done to the Hu family and herself, she threw it in front of Hua Ting. Hua Ting, more than 10 years ago you said that I let you down. Your Hua family even said that I disgraced your Hua family and wanted me to pay with my life. Now I'll return all those words to you. Back then, the one who humiliated your Hua clan was not me but her. Hu Yinyang said as she pointed at Bai Feng who had been kicked away by her. I must take the lives of the Bai family members. It's up to you whether the Hua family is willing to swallow this vexation or not. As Hu Yinyang threw the documents in her hand, Hua Ting's face was filled with disbelief. He caught a piece of paper that was flying in the air and lifted his head to read everything on it. Then he looked at Bai Feng in disbelief. You were the one who set Mother Yen up back then. Hua Ting could not believe all this. Bai Feng was too good at pretending. In the Hua family, she was the young Madame Hua who was well liked by her in-laws and respected by everyone. Chapter 1361. Not only that, she had also done something to the Hua family? That was right. The scrolls that Luo Qingtong had produced contained information about how Bai Feng had targeted the Hua family. Bai Feng had indeed done all these things. After all, she had married into the Hua family as a nobody. Naturally, there were people who had looked down on her. Some of the people who had opposed her and Hua Ting had also been secretly eliminated by Bai Feng, just like what she had done to the other families. Of course, it was not so easy to infiltrate a top family. Bai Feng had been able to do it and had planted her own hands and pawns in the Hua family because she was the young madam of the Hua family. When Hua Ting read the records in the scrolls, he could not help but feel a wave of anger. No. Hua Ting, believe me. I didn't do this. The family whose people are slandering me on purpose. You've all been deceived by Hu Yinyang. Bai Feng had taken advantage of the fact that Hua Ting and the rest had just arrived and were completely clueless about the situation and wanted to distort the truth. Bai Feng was confident that Hua Ting would believe her. After all, she was his wife, the woman he loved. Bai Feng thought of this and said in a tearful voice, Hua Ting, you must believe me. This is all because Yinyang is jealous that I'm with you. That's why she's slandering me on purpose. She wants to get rid of me and the Bai family. Bai Feng appeared to be sobbing bitterly, but her heart was secretly gloating. She was waiting for Hua Ting to believe her and stand up for her. However, just as she finished speaking, a slap landed fiercely on her face. Wow! Bai Feng's entire body was thrown into the air by this powerful slap. She immediately somersaulted a few times in the air before landing heavily on the ground. SL*T. Hua Ting's expression was cold and stern. He stared at Bai Feng who had been thrown into the air and his heart was filled with a violent rage. Yinyang is not that kind of person. Bai Feng, do you know why I had married you in the first place? Hua Ting's voice was icy. Because your family background was low and could accept Yinyang. Yinyang had lost her chastity before marriage and was pregnant. It was impossible for her to enter the Hua family. If Hua Ting wanted to be with Yen Yang, he could only make her a concubine or a mistress. Because of this he married Bai Feng. It was because the other party's family background was low and easy to control. At the same time she was also Yen Yang's good sister. But who would have thought that before he could tell Yen Yang about it, the latter had disappeared along with the child in her womb. All these years Hua Ting had never forgotten Hu Yen Yang. Now that he heard that the reason why she had lost her chastity before marriage and missed him, was all because of Bai Feng, how could he tolerate this? As for what Bai Feng had said, he didn't believe a single word. Hu Yen Yang was not that kind of person. You. After all these years you still haven't forgotten Hu Yen Yang? You've always loved her. Bai Feng was stunned by Hua Ting's slap. She had imagined countless scenes of Hua Ting getting angry at her, or even attacking her. It could be because of the Hua family or for other reasons, however she never thought that he would do this because of Hu Yen Yang. She had thought that she had stolen Hu Yen Yang's man and gloated over it for half her life. In the end she had not gotten anything in return. What a complete joke. Her man had always been thinking about Hu Yen Yang? Chapter 1362. She used to be so proud of herself, but now she was in such a sorry state. Bai Feng was about to lose her mind when she thought about how she had acted like a clown in front of Hu Yen Yang. That's impossible. You love me, you've always loved me. How could it be Hu Yen Yang, that SL*T and loose woman? She pointed at Yen Yang hysterically, unable to believe this fact. Shut up. Hua Ting's eyes narrowed coldly as he slapped Bai Feng again, causing her to spit out blood and fly backward. Bai Feng's body landed heavily on the ground. She was on her last breath and did not even have the strength to move. Yen Yang. Hua Ting turned to look at Hu Yen Yang and said softly, I was wrong in the past, I didn't protect you well enough. I won't interfere in the Bai family's affairs anymore. I'll leave Bai Feng in your hands. Bai Feng's eyes widened when she heard Hua Ting's words. Hua Ting wants to hand me over to Hu Yen Yang? Isn't that asking me to die? If I end up in family whose hands, how am I going to survive? Furthermore, Hu Yen Yang had kept me alive on purpose to torture me. Bai Feng saw it all clearly and her heart was filled with indescribable despair. Everything Hua Ting had said was true. He only had Hu Yen Yang in his heart all this time. To think that she had thought that she had won against Hu Yen Yang, now it looks like she was nothing but a joke. Now the Bai family has fallen into family whose hands and the voodoo sect has been destroyed. She no longer has any bargaining chips. She no longer has any chance of turning the tables. It's over. It's over for me and the Bai family. With that thought in mind, Bai Feng began to laugh hysterically. Ah, ah. Her laughter was shrill and shrill like a ghost. In the next second, she stopped laughing and looked sharply at Luo Qingtong and the others. Hu Yen Yang, I'm not going to have it easy. Family who won't have it easy either. Ah. Hua Ting, do you know why I called you here? It's for the map of the sage monarch's tomb. And that map is in family whose hands. It's given to family who by the man who took Yen Yang's virginity. That's why I did everything I could to deal with the Hu family. I schemed against Hu Zhongqian to kill him. Ah. You can only blame Hu Yen Yang for being too lucky. If I had known that the thing that the man gave them before he left was the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, I would have snatched it from him. Just when I was about to kill family Hu Yen Yang and the others came back. He even brought some secret helpers with him. Otherwise, the Hu clan will be destroyed. Ha 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 ha. Buys to hysterical laughter. Wasn't Hua Ting deeply in love with Hu Yen Yang? Wasn't he going to hand her over to Hu Yen Yang? Very well. She wanted to see if the Hua family could sit still under the temptation of the map. She wanted to see how deep Hua Ting's love for Hu Yen Yang was. Ah. Bai Feng's voice was shrill. As her voice resounded, the gazes of everyone instantly changed when they looked at Hu Zhongqian and the others. Especially Hua Ting and the others. Their expressions changed drastically. The map of the sage monarch's tomb. If there was anything big happening in the Wild City recently, it would be the news of the sage monarch's tomb's appearance. Chapter 1363. He also told them that there were several maps of the sage monarch's tomb. The more complete the map was, the better it would be for them to explore the sage monarch's tomb. When this news spread, all the families in the Wild City were secretly searching for information about the sage monarch's tomb map. Who would have thought that there would be one in the family whose possession? Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed as everyone looked over. She had already issued a gag order to the Bai family and Bai Feng to not mention anything about the sage monarch's tomb map. She did not expect Bai Feng to be unaffected. It should be because the parasite in her body was still lingering, which affected the gag order. Forget it. Since it was exposed, so be it. Anyway, there was still a map in the Ouyang family's hands. Luo Qingtong originally wanted to use some method to get it from the Ouyang family. Since it was exposed now, she might as well use it in the open. Luo Qingtong did not want to attract too much trouble before the sage monarch's tomb was opened, but it did not mean that she was afraid of trouble. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent, but Hu Yinyang and the others were shocked. They did not expect that Bai Feng would reveal the matter of the map so easily. They had deliberately spared Bai Feng and the Bai family's lives. Firstly, it was to better avenge themselves. Secondly, it was to give Bai Feng and the others some hope, to let them think that they might have a chance to turn the tables so they could keep the secret of the map. That way they would not reveal the sage monarch's tomb map in front of so many families. They did not expect to fail at the last moment. Hua Ting's actions had caused Bai Feng to lose all hope and exposed everything. "Master, let's go," Hu Yinyang whispered to Luo Qingtong. They had already promised to give the map to Luo Qingtong. Moreover, even if they did not agree with the relationship between Luo Qingtong, Hu Yinyang and the family Hu, they would only give the map to Luo Qingtong and no one else. Hu Yinyang, Hu Zhongtian, and the others immediately prepared to leave. However, now that the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb had been exposed, how could the people present allow them to leave? Among them, the Hua clan was the worst. They did not expect Bai Feng to send them a message about the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Fortunately, they had heard from Bai Feng that this matter was related to the future development of the Hua family and their position in the wilderness city, so they immediately sent a few more elders and Hua Ting over. At this moment he heard Bai Feng's words and saw that Hu Zhongtian and the others wanted to leave. Immediately the elders gave their orders and led a group of people from the Hua family to surround Luo Qingtong and family Hu Yinyang, Hu Zhongtian. With family Hu's strength, you're not qualified to keep the map of the sage monarch's tomb. Hand it over to the Hua clan. Since you almost became in-laws with the Hua family, we can give you some benefits as a reward. Among the group of people from the Hua clan, an elder who had surpassed the saint stage said. He was the strongest among the people who came with Hua Ting to the Bai clan. At this moment he was looking at Hu Zhongtian and the others arrogantly. In the eyes of this elder who had surpassed the saint stage, the fact that they were willing to give family Hu some benefits in exchange for the map of the sage monarch's tomb was already a huge favor. After all, they could have killed everyone in the Hu clan and snatched the map from them. Chapter 1364. Upon hearing his words, Hu Zhongtian and the others' faces instantly darkened. That's impossible. Hu Yinyang looked at them coldly. Why should we hand over family Hu's belongings to you? Using some compensation to exchange for it? Did the Hua family really think they were fools? How could the value of the Saint Monarch's tomb's map be exchanged for some benefits? So what if they wanted to take it by force? Why did they have to make it sound so dignified as if family Hu should be grateful to them? Hu Yinyang's expression was cold. Her gaze swept across the Hua family members present, then stopped at Hua Ting, who was outside the encirclement and had not moved. Hua Ting, you keep saying that you didn't protect me back then. Then tell them to back off and let us leave. I believe that there is still a trace of affection between us. As Hu Yinyang's voice rang out, everyone's eyes were all focused on Hua Ting. The latter was still in a daze. He looked at Hu Yinyang and his expression changed drastically. The Saint Monarch's tomb map, that was a map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. The tomb of a Saint Rudiment stage powerhouse. Ever since they heard the news, the Hua family had been searching for the whereabouts of the map. They wanted to gain an advantage in the opening of the Saint Monarch's tomb this time. There were many top families in the wild city, and the Hua family was not the most powerful among them. If someone else obtained the Saint Monarch's tomb map and obtained all the benefits in the tomb, then the Hua family might be replaced by another family. Hua Ting's expression changed, and the Hua family elders also spoke up. Young master, don't forget your identity. Hu Yinyang is not worthy of your protection. Don't forget, young master, you are not the only descendant in the Hua family. Are you really going to do this for Hu Yinyang? Are you going to give up everything in the Hua family? Not to mention, even if family Hu escapes from here, they might not be able to protect the existence of the map. Young master, don't do anything stupid. Young master, please spare a thought for the Hua family. If we miss this opportunity, our Hua clan may not be able to get another map of the sage monarch's tomb. As the elders spoke, Hua Ting's expression changed even more. There was a struggle in his eyes. In the end, he gritted his teeth and looked at Hu Yinyang. Yinyang, I'm sorry. Hand over that map. I'll treat you well. When he said this, he seemed to have grasped onto something that made him feel at ease. Then he softened his voice and said to Hu Yenyang, "Yenyang, we have missed so much before. Now that the misunderstanding has been resolved, we should be together again. Hand over the map of the sage monarch's tomb. I'll go plead with my father and the others. When our Hua clan gains something in the Saint King's tomb and improves our strength, father and the others will be very happy. When that time comes, you'll be able to enter the Hua family again. Yenyang, when that time comes, we'll be able to be together again. Family who will also be able to rise because of our relationship with the Hua family. Isn't that good? Handing over the map will be extremely beneficial to both you and us." Before Hua Ting could finish speaking, Hu Yenyang had already laughed loudly. Ah. Chapter 1365. And when I was at my most helpless, you chose to marry by phone. You wanted me to be your concubine, your mistress. Do you think that's the best you can do for me? Did you think that you were very noble? Even for a girl like me who lost her chastity before marriage, you are not stingy in treating me well. But did you know? I don't care. Just like this time, you wanted me to give you the map of the Saint King's tomb in exchange for a chance to lower my head and live a life of humiliation in the Hua family. Hu Yenyang's expression was full of contempt. More than 10 years ago, Hua Ting's irresponsible behavior had made her see his true colors. Even though she was innocent, he did not stand up for her and let her be trampled on and humiliated for the sake of the Hua family's reputation. Such a person still dared to say that he still missed her and wanted to be with her again more than 10 years later? Did she, Hu Yenyang, look like a garbage collector? Was she willing to accept any man? Bai Feng was willing to treat such a man like a treasure and flaunt it everywhere. That was her business. However, Hu Yenyang did not have any feelings for Hua Ting. Not to mention that he had said such ridiculous things. He wanted her to give him the map of the Saint King's tomb in exchange for a chance to enter the Hua family again? He even said that if the Hua family's strength increased, family who would also benefit? How shameless did Hua Ting have to be to say something like that? How lowly was Hu Yenyang in his eyes that she needed to use such a method to enter the Hua family? Then, she and family who would have to submit to the Hua family and live a life of being trampled on by the Hua family? Hu Yenyang did not even want to look at Hua Ting. Since more than 10 years ago when he had backed off and not defended her, she had completely seen the selfishness hidden under Hua Ting's deep love. This time she had only verified his true colors. The Hua family can give up on this idea. Family who will never hand over that map. As Hu Yenyang spoke, she immediately sent a telepathic message to Luo Qingtong in a low voice. "Master, leave quickly. Leave us alone." Yenyang knew that with Luo Qingtong's ability, if she was alone, she would definitely have a way to escape from the Hua family's encirclement. Their family who was willing to use the entire clan's strength to protect their master. Luo Qingtong didn't say anything. She narrowed her eyes and looked at the people of the Hua clan in front of her, who were already angry because of Yenyang's words. They were ready to rob her. She suddenly said, "Family whose map of the Saint King's tomb is with me." As soon as Luo Qingtong said this, everyone in the Hua family turned to look at Luo Qingtong. "Mas, young master," Hu Yenyang exclaimed. It wasn't easy for her to gather all the Hua family's attention on her. She even thought of ways to infuriate them so that she could restrain these people so that Luo Qingtong could leave safely when she took action later. Why did her master suddenly speak up and take responsibility for this matter? Hu Yenyang was anxious and was about to speak up to drag the matter back to her. However, Luo Qingtong raised her hand and took out a piece of the map of the Saint King's tomb. She looked at the people of the Hua family and said, "This is the map of the Saint King's tomb. Do you want it?" Chapter 1366. It wasn't just them, even the people from the other clans who were watching from a distance were also envious. Who didn't know that having the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb was equivalent to having an advantage in the exploration of the tomb? Although the Ouyang family had previously announced the news of the Saint Monarch's tomb, they had said that as long as the family clans came, they could enter the tomb to explore. But who didn't know that the chances of obtaining treasures with and without a map were completely different? Everyone was envious, but Luo Qingtong's expression was very indifferent. She held the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in one hand and tossed it around. This map of the Saint Monarch's tomb was naturally obtained from the Celestial Palace. Hu Zhongtian and the others had not given her the map of family Hu yet. However, Hu Zhongtian had just told her the location of the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb and asked her to retrieve it after leaving this place. But how could Luo Qingtong be the kind of person who would suffer a loss and leave? In her previous life, when she was not strong enough, she would rather suffer 1,000 casualties than suffer 800 casualties every time she was hunted down. Moreover, these people from the Hua family were not qualified to make her suffer a loss and leave. Since the people from family who did not want to leave her, then she would naturally not abandon them. The map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Seeing the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in Luo Qingtong's hand, the elders of the Hua family immediately flew over to snatch it. Boom! As their figures pierced through the air, a cold sound was heard. Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly narrowed. She was about to make a move. Suddenly, her pair of blood-red eyes swept across a place not far away. Immediately, she stopped moving and then looked at that place and said, "Are you done hiding there and watching the show? Why don't you get out here?" Following Luo Qingtong's voice, everyone immediately looked in that direction. However, as far as the eye could see, there was nothing. There were only a few parasol trees planted in the courtyard, full of branches and green leaves swaying in the breeze. With the cultivation of the people present, unless it was a powerhouse above the saint level, it would be impossible to hide from their aura detection. But how could such a powerhouse appear here? Not to mention that this unknown youth in front of them had berated them with words like, "Get out here." The elders surrounding Luo Qingtong looked at Luo Qingtong coldly and mockingly. "Kid, don't pretend to be a ghost. No matter how hard you struggle you can't escape from our palms. Give us the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb." Looking at their figures pouncing over, those pairs of claws stretched towards him, but there was no movement in the direction he was looking at. Luo Qingtong's Luo Qingtong Luo zzzz she s's Luo's sss Luo, estes where's T's Luo's where she's estes. Luo Qingtong was so angry that she laughed. She suddenly raised her hand, and with a swoosh, the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in her hand flew to the place where the shout came from. Bang! As the map was thrown out by Luo Qingtong, the expressions of the elders of the Hua family changed. They immediately turned around and grabbed at the place where the map fell. The strength of their bodies skyrocketed, extremely powerful. They were afraid that the people from the other families would suddenly make a move at this time and snatch this map. Boom! Several of them grabbed at the map at the same time. Chapter 1367. With a boom, their figures seemed to have been hit by something and they were sent flying backward. Bang bang bang. The few of them crashed heavily onto the ground, almost brushing against the ground as they were sent flying for nearly 100 meters. Elders. The Hua clan's people were dumbfounded. Hua Ting and the others hurriedly ran to the Hua clan's elders and helped them up. Pfft. When those people were helped up, they spat out a mouthful of blood. It was obvious that their injuries were very serious. Oh, who is it? They looked in horror at the place where they had been sent flying. There, the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb was in someone's hand. A light purple figure appeared at this moment. "I can't believe you actually found out." Following this seductive and lazy voice, Yu Sihuang's devilishly handsome face looked gloomily in the direction of Luo Qingtong. He had thought that Luo Qingtong was deliberately tricking him. He didn't expect that she had actually seen through his tracks. But how was this possible? He had hidden from everyone's eyes. Even those experts who had surpassed the Saint Realm did not discover his existence and arrival. How was he caught by Luo Qingtong? Yu Sihuang felt very stifled. He had thought that when Luo Qingtong was in danger, he would make a move and win the reputation of being a hero who saved the damsel in distress. At that time, Luo Qingtong might look at him in a new light. At that time, his position in Luo Qingtong's heart might not be any worse than Yi Qianxian's. In the end, before he could do anything, now he was discovered by someone. Yu Sihuang's heart was resentful. Beside him, Yu Xingqi's mouth twitched. "I told you that you couldn't hide from sister." This stupid brother still wanted to be a hero who saved the damsel in distress. Now, not only did he not save the damsel in distress, but he was also discovered? Yu Xingqi rolled her eyes at him. Yu Sihuang could not be bothered with her. He threw a coquettish glance at Luo Qingtong, then lazily tossed the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in his hand and said with a smile, "Aya, is this the token of love that little Jura gave me?" What a surprise. Yu Xingqi did not know how to ridicule her brother's thick skin. Was the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb a token of love? "You didn't come out for a long time, so sister used it to smash you, okay?" Forcefully turning it into a token of love, Yu Xingqi was also convinced by his elder brother's ability to forcefully commit adultery. Luo Qingtong was also speechless. She was about to speak. However, at this moment, the group of Hua clan disciples that had followed Hua Ting to the Bai clan spoke. "I don't know where you came from, you sissy rabbit. How dare you play tricks here and injure a few of our Hua clan's elders? Do you know what kind of existence our Hua clan? We don't care how you injured the elders. Immediately hand over the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Otherwise, we will make sure you can't walk out of the Bai clan. The Hua clan's disciples looked at Yu Si Huang's enchanting face and heard what he said to Luo Qingtong. They did not think that he was some kind of expert. The other party must be playing tricks. They did not know what kind of shameful method he used to injure the elders. Those methods can be used once but not many times. Chapter 1368. As the voices of the Hua clan's disciples sounded, Luo Qingtong and the others didn't react. Yu Xingqi was already holding Dudu, holding his stomach and laughing. I can't take it anymore. Sissy. Uncle Rabbit. Yu Xingqi hugged Dudu and almost fell to the ground laughing. She had lived for so many years, but this was the first time she heard someone scold her big brother like this. It was really too cool. Wasn't it? Speaking of which, she also had this feeling. In front of Luo Qingtong, her big brother's style was really too indescribable. However, due to the tyrannical power, she dared to think but didn't dare to say it. The Hua clan's people were really heroes. She admired them too much, didn't she? Yu Xingqi was laughing beside Yu Si Huang. He pointed at Yu Si Huang and laughed until he almost couldn't breathe. Yu Si Huang's face turned green. Luo Qingtong and the others also couldn't help but laugh. Especially Hu Yenyang. She knew about Yu Si Huang. The latter was the king of the southern region's 3 islands and 7 lands. Hu Yenyang helped Luo Qingtong take care of all the matters of the Blackfields mansion. Naturally, she had met him face to face. Not only that, Yu Si Huang had also sneaked into the Blackfields main city and went to Luo Qingtong's Blackfield mansion to look for her whereabouts. Therefore, Yenyang was very clear about Yu Si Huang's identity. But it was because she was clear that she found it very funny. Because this king of the southern region, his style in front of others was not like when he was facing Luo Qingtong. That was the coexistence of majesty and enchanting, domineering and evildoer. It was definitely not like this indescribable style. And those experts of the Blackfield mansion who came with Yenyang also had an indescribable shock on their faces. Yi Qianxian previously announced to the people of the Blackfield that no one from the 3 islands and 7 lands of the southern region was allowed to enter any city under the name of the Blackfield. This was especially true for the people of the Imperial Sect and the sect master of the Imperial Sect. They had all seen the portrait posted by the Blackfield. Naturally, they knew that the purple-robed man in front of them was the sect leader of the Imperial Sect, the king of the 3 islands and 7 lands of the southern region. But, wasn't the other party's style a little too different from the king of the southern region, the leader of the Imperial Sect? While they were still in shock, the elders of the Hua family, who had just been helped up by the disciples of the Hua family, slipped and almost fell down again when they heard the words of the disciples of the Hua family. Naturally, it was because of the words of the Hua clan's disciples. They were people who directly faced Yu Si Huang, so they naturally knew that when the other party dealt with them, it wasn't because he used some so-called shameful method. Instead, it was a genuine attack. At this moment, they were all shocked and trying to guess the identity of the other party. In the end, these troublesome children of his actually went up against the other party directly. He even used such insults to provoke the other party. When these elders of the Hua family heard the words of the Hua family's disciples, they almost fainted from anger. Before they could open their mouths to stop these disciples, Yu Si Huang's cold voice had already sounded at this moment. Good. Sissy Master Rabbit? Yu Si Huang had been in charge of the Imperial Sect for so many years, but this was the first time he heard someone daring to use such words to scold him in front of his face. You people of the Hua family are very good. Chapter 1369. His face, which was more beautiful than a flower, was filled with a soul-stirring coldness. The smile on Yu Si Huang's face was cold. In the next second he suddenly made his move. Bang bang bang. No one saw how he made his move. They only saw him wave his hand. In an instant, the Hua family disciples who had insulted him and supported the Hua family elders were turned into a pile of flesh and blood. With a bang they exploded in front of everyone. The remaining Hua family members were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. Who are you? The elders of the Hua clan didn't even have time to react before the Hua clan disciples around them were all killed. At that moment they were even more shocked. Hua Ting's face was also twitching violently. He looked at Yu Si Huang. He did not know how family who knew such a powerful expert. With a wave of his hand, the other party had repelled several Hua family elders and even took the lives of a group of Hua family disciples. They did not even see how the other party moved. The difference in strength was too great. Yu Si Huang. The man's voice was indifferent. At this moment Yu Si Huang still had that devilishly lazy appearance, but at this moment, no one would be able to link him with the title of Sissy, Rabbit Grandpa. The man's aura was strong and domineering. He was obviously the same person, but his temperament had completely changed. Not everyone could enjoy the treatment that Yu Si Huang had given Luo Qingtong. The only outcome for those who challenged the authority of a king was death. All of you break one of your own arms and scram. Yu Si Huang looked at the remaining Hua family members indifferently and said, "Tell the person in charge of the Hua family that family who is under my protection. This is the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. If they have the ability they can come and take it." Yu Si Huang said and immediately winked at Luo Qingtong. "Little Jiu, don't you think so?" Luo Qingtong glanced at him without saying anything. Then she looked at the group of people from the Hua family and said, "So, did you hear what he said clearly?" Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, but the Hua family was still in a daze. Yu Si Huang. As early as when Yu Si Huang announced his name, these Hua clan people already clearly knew the other party's identity. King of the Southern Region, Imperial Emperor Sect Master. Someone exclaimed and revealed Yu Si Huang's identity. Everyone present, including the people from the other families and the Hua family, all looked at Yu Si Huang in shock. No one had imagined that this monstrously handsome young man would actually be the king of the 3 islands and 7 lands of the southern domain. Imperial Sect Master Yu Si Huang. No wonder he was so powerful. Everyone in the Hua family was shocked beyond words. Indeed, this was the far west desolate region, not the southern region. As for the imperial family, they had no power here. But Yu Si Huang is the king of the southern region. The southern region's power in the far west desolate region was not small. Those people, if Yu Si Huang spoke, would definitely stand on his side. So Yu Si Huang was not to be trifled with. Family who actually had such a powerful person behind him. Everyone in the Hua family was annoyed. Chapter 1370. Wouldn't it be better to work with him? This way, the ruler of the imperial sect would also stand on the Hua family's side. When the Saint King's tomb opened, the Hua family's gains might even be greater than the Ouyang family's. In the future, it would only be a matter of time before they surpassed the Ouyang family and became the #1 family in Wild City. However, all of this was now ruined by them. Not only did they not get the map of the Saint King's tomb, they had also completely offended the ruler of the southern region. Everyone in the Hua family was stunned. As for the few elders who had been so arrogant earlier, asking Hua Ting not to help Hu Yinyang and even offering some benefits in exchange for the map of the Saint King's tomb with family who, the Hua family elders' faces turned green and black. If there was a big hole in front of them at this moment, they would definitely jump in without hesitation. They had previously despised family Hu for being too weak and thought that with the Hua family's strength, they could completely crush the other party. Since that was the case, why should they work together? Of course it was by force. However, who would have thought that the end result would be like this? Even if they knew that Chu Lingfeng had once taken out the Imperial Sect's guardian token at the city gate, they would never have thought that the Imperial Sect Master would be by his side and stay with family Hu. Moreover, he was so protective of family Hu. Their complexions were alternating between green and white. Among them, Hua Ting's expression was the most interesting. He clearly had the opportunity to help Yen Yang previously, but in the end he chose to shrink back. Moreover, he shamelessly asked Yen Yang to give up the map of the Saint King's tomb in exchange for a chance to re-enter the Hua family. He was really shameless. He had said it so matter-of-factly before, but this plot twist was a slap in the face. The Hu clan had the support of an existence like the Imperial Sect Master behind them. Why would they need to use such a humble method to beg to enter the Hua clan? Moreover, all of this was Hua Ting's self-righteousness. Yen Yang did not want to enter the Hua family at all. Hua Ting's face was full of shame and embarrassment. He took a step forward, wanting to say something to Hu Yinyang. The latter had already taken a step back and said to them coldly, "Young Master Hua, please." The faces of the Hua family members turned pale. When the family Hu people saw this, their expressions did not change at all. The arrogance of the Hua family was obvious to all. If it wasn't for Yu Si Huang's strength and influence, they wouldn't be able to bear it. Their faces were pale and they were in despair. It would be their family Hu. Moreover, it was very likely to implicate Luo Qingtong and cause her to get into trouble. How could Hu Zhongtian and the others tolerate this? Luo Qingtong was family Hu's savior. Their expressions were indifferent. The people from the other families who were watching all of this immediately rejoiced in their hearts. Because of the Hua family, they had not been able to make a move previously. Otherwise they would end up in a worse state than Hua Ting and his crew. After all, Hua Ting and the rest were from the top aristocratic families. They weren't like that. While the crowd was rejoicing in their hearts, Hua Ting and his crew had already gritted their teeth, cut off one of their arms and left dejectedly. Looking at their backs as they left, the Bai family members lying on the ground finally regained their senses. Chapter 1371. Bai Feng's expression was one of madness. She could not believe what she was seeing. How could this be? Behind the Hu clan, there was actually such a strong and powerful figure supporting them. The ruler of the southern region, the leader of the imperial royal sect. How could this be? If family Hu knew such a powerful figure, why was it so difficult for them to deal with Bai Feng and the others? They even needed the help of so many other families. They even set up a trap to expose what Bai Feng and the others had done so that they could deal with the Bai family. What was going on? Perhaps Bai Feng was in disbelief. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Bai Feng. She transmitted her voice to her. Are you very surprised? That's because I asked him to clean up the aftermath of the voodoo sect's extermination. That was why Yu Si Huang and Yu Xingqi were not around. Luo Qingtong did not expect the Bai family and family Hu's second elders people to be so suicidal. After she tricked Yu Si Huang into helping her clean up the aftermath, they came to her door to seek their own deaths. Otherwise, why would she need to use so many tricks to deal with them? Luo Qingtong's words made Bai Feng's eyes widen. Her eyes bulged out like a dead fish's eyes as she stared at Luo Qingtong. It's you? You're the one who exterminated the voodoo. Bai Feng screamed in horror. Her voice was sharp. However, before she could utter the words voodoo sect, she suddenly realized that she couldn't utter the words voodoo sect, no matter how hard she tried. When she said the word voodoo, her voice was automatically silenced. All that was left was her sharp expression and her lips twitching continuously. It's you? It's you? Bai Feng screamed crazily. She finally understood why her voodoo sect was exterminated and why the mother of venomous insects in Hu Fei's body was taken out. Not only that, he had also absorbed so much of her power and increased his power. Also, Hu Zhongtian's injuries should not have allowed him to survive. All of this was done by Luo Qingtong. It was this youth called Yi Jiu in front of her that had ruined everything she had carefully planned, all of her plans and ambitions. Congratulations, you got it right. But there's no reward. Luo Qingtong looked indifferently at Bai Feng's hysterical appearance. The other party was extremely similar to Luo Xingning and the others. They always thought that they were the best in the world. You didn't know how to be grateful or how to give back. The Bai family had risen with the help of family Hu, but in the end they had trampled family Hu to the bottom of the mud. They had stepped on the blood and tears of Yen Yang and family Hu to climb up. Luo Qingtong still said the same thing. She admired a person's ambition, but she didn't appreciate the other party's ingratitude. They were worse than pigs and dogs. Oh right, I forgot to tell you something. Yen Yang is the general manager that I left behind in the Black Field. I have another name and that is Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. The moment Luo Qingtong said this, Bai Feng broke down even more and became even crazier. She desperately lay on the ground and shook her head. She wanted to shout out Luo Qingtong's name, but she could not succeed no matter how hard she tried. People could only hear her shouting impossible, with all her might. They thought that she could not accept that family who had such a strong cultivator as Yu Si Huang behind him. Chapter 1372. Shopkeeper Yen of the Black Field. She was in charge of all the affairs of the evil Dr. Ghost Eye in the Black Field. She was also in charge of all her properties and businesses. In the dark domain there was no one who did not know about it. Even Bai Feng, who was in the western wilderness, had heard of her. However, no one would have thought that shopkeeper Yen was actually Yen Yang. Bai Feng screamed hysterically. She could not believe that after scheming her entire life, she had lost everything to Hu Yen Yang. Yen Yang had an extremely high status in the Black Field. If her identity was exposed, she would be on equal footing with the top aristocratic families. Furthermore, the man she thought she had in her hands, Hua Ting, was also obsessed with Hu Yen Yang. Bai Feng was unable to accept this series of blows. Luo Qingtong looked at her crazy appearance and retracted her gaze indifferently. Then she lifted her leg and kicked her in front of Yen Yang. Yen Yang, I'll leave her to you. Including these people from the Bai family. As Luo Qingtong spoke, family whose men had already gone over and dragged the surviving members of the Bai family over, throwing them in front of Hu Zhongtian and the rest. Bai Changfeng and the rest, who had been so arrogant just a moment ago, were now either unconscious or barely breathing. They looked at Hu Zhongtian and the rest in shock. They did not know how things had turned out this way. The Hua family was here. Shouldn't they be saved? Bai Feng was the young mistress of the Hua family. The people of the Bai family would never be trampled on by others. However, reality had proven them wrong. The Hua family could not save them. Even when Bai Feng had revealed the fact that family who had the map of the Holy King's tomb in her final moments of despair, she had not been able to save the Bai family from being destroyed. Not only that, the Hua family had also been chased away by family Hu. This was something that would never happen even in their dreams. However, it was happening right in front of them now. When they saw Bai Feng, who seemed to have lost her mind, the Bai family members' faces were filled with indescribable despair. They had been relying on Bai Feng as their last hope. Now Bai Feng was clearly going crazy. What did that young man say to her to make her so desperate and crazy? Hu Yinyang could vaguely guess what had happened. To Bai Feng, the thing that could hurt her the most was that she was living a better life than her. Mistress should have told Bai Feng about her identity and position in the Black region, and even exposed her own name as the demonic physician Ghost Eyes. Otherwise, Bai Feng would not have broken. Speaking of which, Bai Feng was quite pitiful. She had schemed her entire life and was jealous of all the good things she had. She wanted to replace her at all costs. What did she get in the end? She did not gain anything. Hua Ting did not take her seriously at all, and the Bai family would fall apart because of her ambition. Bai family Hua buys, Bai families buys. Otherwise, family who would have been trampled to death by Bai Feng and the Bai family. They would not even know what had happened. Yen Yang would have to live in the Black Field with guilt for the rest of her life. She would not know what her father and big brother were going through. No. If he didn't have a master, he wouldn't have to live with guilt. She and Ling Feng would have died in the Black Field subsidy of Dongli Nation. Yen Yang looked at Luo Qingtong gratefully as she thought of this. Chapter 1373. Yu Si Huang walked to Luo Qingtong's side and asked with a smile, Tong, how was it? Wasn't my performance just now too cool? As he spoke, he threw a charming look at Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong didn't say anything, but Yu Xingqi, who was holding the little white cat, had already started to mutter. My eyes. She didn't finish her words, but Yu Si Huang's face had already turned completely black. Yu Xingqi. Following Yu Si Huang's roar, Yu Xingqi had already hugged the little white cat and hid behind Luo Qingtong's back. With a pitiful face she said, Sister, look. My brother is going to abuse me again. I'll be your little sister, okay? I don't want such a cruel brother. Yu Si Huang's face turned green when he heard these words. This little witch, in order to be Luo Qingtong's little sister, she really wanted to blacken him to death. Did she think that he wanted a little sister like her who would always cheat him? Go away from me. He pulled Yu Xingqi aside with a face full of resentment, then looked at Luo Qingtong and said, Tong, this time I helped you so much, are you really not going to consider giving me a reward? A kiss won't do, a hug or something is also fine. As Yu Si Huang was speaking, Luo Qingtong didn't even have time to open her mouth. The little fox that was originally lying in her arms suddenly jumped up and scratched at Yu Si Huang. It's you again, this fox. Yu Si Huang was smiling as he approached Luo Qingtong. He didn't have any defense in his heart and was almost scratched. When he dodged behind him, he saw that the one who scratched him last time, the little fox that Yi Chenxian gave to Luo Qingtong. He immediately became angry. It's this fox again. Yu Huang seriously suspected that Yi Qianxian had trained this fox to scratch him whenever it saw him. Otherwise, why would this fox target him time and time again? And every time, it would interrupt his good deed. Yu Huang thought about it and clenched his teeth. He raised his hand to grab the little silver fox. Seeing his palm coming, Yi Qianxian transformed into the little silver fox's fur stood up. The 4 claws on its little paws impressively stretched out. One man and one fox were about to have a big fight, but Luo Qingtong's hand stretched out at this time and blocked Yu Huang's attack. She also pulled Yi Qianxian back into her arms. Enough, how old are you? You still can't get along with a little fox? Luo Qingtong's face looked indifferently. The latter's face was filled with resentment. Yi Qianren also snorted coldly. But its little face, its face is the Tong's face fox looked. Wait until he regains his human form, then he will deal with this Yu Huang. How dare he approach Luo Qingtong when I'm not here? Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold. He didn't want to bother with Yu Huang anymore. He buried his head back into Luo Qingtong's arms. But at this time, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly rang in his ears. Inbao, Yi Qianxian. Following Luo Qingtong's voice, Yi Qianxian's fur instantly stood up. His whole body stiffened in Luo Qingtong's arms. He didn't know how to react. She found out. She knew that this little fox was him. Chapter 1374. Before he could react, Luo Qingtong, who was on the other side, waited for a while. When Yi Qianren did not react, she suddenly laughed. Hey, what am I thinking? After she said that, she smiled and kissed the silver fox's pink nose. She actually thought that the silver fox was Yi Qianxian. But it wasn't her fault. Who asked this little fox to be able to use Yi Qianxian's power? The power that had been injected into her body was indeed Yi Qianxian's. But now it seemed that it was all because of the ring, right? As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she raised her hand and stroked the 10-directional dragon ring on the silver fox's paw. Then she smiled and retracted her hand. But she didn't know that Yi Qianxian's heart was on a roller coaster ride. It was too exciting. He didn't know what to say. Should he say that he was too shocked to react? Otherwise, if he had answered Luo Qingtong when she called his name, he would have been exposed. Yi Qianxin's heart was filled with indescribable joy. He was being kept as a pet by his own woman and was even being tamed. He would hide it in his heart for the rest of his life. He would never say it out loud. Luo Qingtong's attention had returned to the Bai family. She looked at the terrified Bai family members and said to Hu Yenyang and the others, "Take them all back for interrogation, no matter how big or small, everything must be clarified. Especially the matter of sending Bai Jintang to Fenghua City. Just who did it? Find out everything. Also, I want all the details about the sage monarch's tomb." Family who had been far away from the center of Wild City for too long. They had almost lost their status as a mid-level family, so they didn't know as much as the Bai family. If that wasn't the case, they would have known that the item in their hands was the map of the sage monarch's tomb. It was only after the Bai family came knocking on their door that they were able to confirm it. If he had known in advance, family who could have sought refuge with a top-notch family, he would not have been afraid of the Bai family's threat at all. Moreover, he wouldn't have been forced to the brink of destruction by the Bai family. Although the Bai clan was only a middle-ranked clan with the support of the White Phoenix Voodoo sect, the Bai clan's foundation actually far surpassed that of ordinary middle-ranked clans. They already had the qualifications to aspire to be a top-ranked clan. Coupled with Bai Feng's presence in the Hua clan, she would definitely know more about the Saint Monarch's tomb than the average person. Luo Qingtong naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity to inquire about information. She wanted to find out why the Ouyang clan wanted to announce the location of the Saint King's tomb. Was there something involved in all of this? Luo Qingtong and the others left with the Bai family's people. After Luo Qingtong and the others left the Bai family, the people from the other families who had followed them to the Bai family also left after wreaking havoc in the Bai family. They didn't find anything valuable in the Bai family. All of the Bai family's hidden treasures had already been looted when Luo Qingtong sneaked into the Bai family. The things that were left behind were just some deceptive and worthless things. Not only that, Luo Qingtong also left behind all kinds of evidence of the Bai family's crimes. It also included the news that the Voodoo sect belonged to the Bai family. Chapter 1375. But others didn't know about it? Moreover, the Bai family had benefited a lot from the Voodoo sect. These things couldn't be washed away. As for the Hua family, they were also implicated in this. This was because Bai Feng had used the Voodoo sect to do many things for the Hua family in order to raise their status. Previously, all of these things had been attributed to the Bai family. Now that it was exposed, all the families in Wilderness City looked at the Hua family with strange gazes. As for the Hua family, they almost wanted to eat Bai Feng alive. Not to mention that Hua Ting and the others who went to the Bai family had all broken an arm when they returned. Not only that, none of the elite disciples had returned. All of them were killed by Yu Si Huang. In the eyes of the Hua family, this was all Bai Feng's fault. If the other party had told them clearly that the family who had the whereabouts of the map of the sage monarch's tomb, they would have been able to obtain it. They would have obtained the map of the sage monarch's tomb long ago. How would they have provoked a powerhouse like Yu Si Huang to come and support the family who? It made the Hua family the target of public criticism. Not only did their reputation among the small families in Wilderness City plummet, but several Hua family elders and Hua Ting's arms were also crippled. Even though their family had the best medicine that could reattach their arms, they were unable to do so. But to recover to the point where they could use their arms as freely as before, who knew how much time they would need to recuperate and train? It's really a woman's fault. In the Hua family head was furious. It was not only because the Hua family's reputation had been damaged, but also because the duck meat in his mouth had flown away. The map of the sage monarch's tomb. According to the Ouyang family, there were a total of 4 incomplete maps of the sage monarch's tomb. Together, it was the complete map of the sage monarch's tomb. Those who had the map of the sage monarch's tomb would naturally have the advantage when entering the tomb in the future. The Hua family had almost obtained the map of the sage monarch's tomb, but in the end, they missed it. It really made people feel indignant. If Bai Feng and the others had not been captured by Hu Zhongtian and the others and taken into the family, who was rescued and brought back to the Hua family, would not have had a good time. The Hua family head wished he could tear her apart now. After throwing a tantrum, Patriarch Hua coldly looked at the group of Hua family elders beside him and said, "Have you found out? Why is the Imperial sect master so protective of family Hu?" She had never heard of family Hu being involved with the royal family. When family Hu was weak, no forces in the southern region extended a helping hand to them. Now that the Imperial sect master was so supportive of family Hu, it was really inconceivable. Reporting to Lord, the matter has been investigated clearly. Everything is related to that young man called Yi Jiu. The other party seems to be on good terms with Chu Lingfeng, addressing Chu Lingfeng as Big Brother. When he was outside the city gate, he used the Imperial family sect's guardian token to help Chu Lingfeng escape. According to the information we found, the man who was following beside Yi Jiu with a veil hat covering his face should be the sect master of the Imperial sect. He should be the one who gave Chu Lingfeng the Great Altar Protector's decree to help him escape. As the top family in Wild City, the Hua family naturally knew what happened in Wild City like the back of their hand. They did not care before because they felt that there was no need to care. Chapter 1376. With just a little bit of attention, all the information related to family Hu was presented to him. Yi Jiu. The Hua family head looked through the information in his hands, but he had no impression of this name. However, the Sky Spill continent was vast and filled with talents. Unless it was someone as amazing as the evil Dr. Ghost Eye, it was impossible for everyone in the 4 regions to have heard of them. Otherwise, it was understandable that they didn't know of some talents. However, since the other party was familiar with the leader of the Imperial sect and was able to obtain the protection of the other party, the people of the Hu clan were really lucky. Humph. I didn't think that Hu Yinyang, who gave birth to such a foolish son, would have such luck to be able to meet such a person who is familiar with the Imperial family sect master. The Hua family head coldly snorted. The others were listening at the side, but none of them made a sound. When Hu Yinyang was schemed against and lost her virginity, with the Hua family's ability, they could see that something was wrong. However, the Hua family head didn't want the Hua family's reputation to be damaged, so he pinned the crime of adultery on Hu Yinyang. This caused Hu Yinyang to be spurned by everyone in Wild City, and even more so by the Hu clan. Hu Zhongqian was forced to settle her outside and couldn't bring her back to family Hu to take care of her. If it weren't for this, Hu Yinyang wouldn't have had such a miserable life. And between the Hua family and family Hu, there wouldn't have been no chance of redemption. Especially after snatching the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, they were no different from enemies. And all of this was because the Hua family head had been too ruthless. However, in front of him, no one dared to say that he was wrong at the time. The Hua family head seemed to be able to sense everyone's emotions. He coldly snorted and said, "Have someone contact this Yi Jiu and see if we can make peace. Also have someone prepare. I'm going to visit the patriarchs of the other top families. If that Yi Jiu didn't know what was good for him, then don't blame the Hua family for being impolite. Even if the Hua clan could not monopolize the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, they could not be excluded from it. If the other party wanted to help family Hu wholeheartedly, then he could only join forces with the other top families to force the other party to hand over the map. Otherwise the Hua family would be the unlucky ones in the end. He would absolutely not allow that to happen. Although the imperial sect master was powerful, his status in the southern region was also very high. However, the far west desolate region was not his home ground in the end. The forces of the southern mountain range were willing to work for him, but they might not be willing to work for family Hu. At that time he would join forces with the other top clans. Chapter 1377. Mistress, the other party is from the hidden world. I'm afraid they aren't easy to provoke. Hu Yinyang said to Luo Qingtong with a worried expression. Before she met Luo Qingtong, she basically didn't know about the existence of the hidden world. But after she met Luo Qingtong and helped her manage the Blackfield mansion, she gradually began to understand these matters. From this, Hu Yinyang realized just how vast the world was, and just how vast and boundless the Sky Spill continent was. In the eyes of ordinary people, the four great sacred dynasties were giants that were difficult to reach. But in the Sky Spill continent, they were only a small corner of the eastern domain. As for the hidden world, it was said that the sects and influences there were even above the influences of the Sky Spill continent. The powerhouses that cultivated there, if taken out, were enough to crush the powerhouses of the Sky Spill continent. After learning that the things that the Bai family had prepared were actually prepared for the people of the hidden world, Hu Yinyang was immediately worried. She had already killed everyone from the Bai family, but she was afraid that the other party would have other means to trace the whereabouts of the Purple Heart Fruit and Thunder Beast. Hidden world. Luo Qingtong's eyebrows arched up. The Bai family was actually able to establish contact with the people of the hidden world? This really surprised her. However, she would deal with whatever came her way. She had already done what she had to do. Moreover, even if she didn't steal the Purple Heart Fruit and Thunder Beast that the Bai family had prepared for the other party, with the help of the Bai family, the other party would inevitably confront her. Since that was the case, what else was there to worry about? She would wait until the other party came. Yes, I know about that. What else? Luo Qingtong looked at Hu Yinyang. What about the Saint Monarch's tomb? I managed to pry out the information about the Saint Monarch's tomb from Bai Feng's mouth. It is said that the Ouyang family suddenly announced this information without any warning. Moreover, they promised that besides the families that have the map, those without the map can still enter the Saint Monarch's tomb to try their luck. Mistress, the Ouyang family's behavior is very strange. They seem to be deliberately tempting others to enter the Saint Monarch's tomb. Hu Yinyang looked at Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. Indeed. Others didn't know that because they didn't have the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. But Luo Qingtong knew that the 4 pieces of the Saint King's tomb incomplete map would only show the paths and mechanisms in the tomb in greater detail. But a single map to enter tomb's Saint Monarch. The saint, as the tomb, as the maps is. It would not be a hindrance to finding the tomb itself. If it weren't for the family whose matter and the Ouyang family's announcement of the Saint Monarch's tomb's map, Luo Qingtong might have already entered the Saint Monarch's tomb with Yu Si Huang and the others. But now that the Ouyang family's people had announced the Saint Monarch's tomb's news to the public, she couldn't act as she thought before, lest she ended up benefiting others. She wanted to see what kind of medicine the Ouyang family had up their sleeves. Continue to inquire about the Ouyang family. By the way, before and after they announced this news, help me see if anything special happened in their family. Chapter 1378. Master, before the Ouyang family announced the news, they sought medical help from the outside world. The young master of the Ouyang family suddenly contracted a strange illness. At that time all the alchemists in the wild city saw it, but they were helpless. In the end, a man in white with a cloak took down the notice and cured the young master of the Ouyang family. Not long after that, the Ouyang family gathered all the families in the wild city and announced the news about the Saint King's tomb. I don't know if it has anything to do with this, Hu Yinyang said. She knew about this because Hu Zhongtian had told her about it in advance. After the man in white cured the young master of the Ouyang family, he had also gone to seek medical help from the other party. He wanted the other party to help treat Hu Fei, but he was rejected. Not long after Hu Zhongtian returned to family, the hidden danger of broken bones in his body broke out, and he fell ill. After that, The Ouyang family gathered all the families in the wild city and announced the news about the Saint King's tomb to the public. Because Hu Zhongqian was seriously ill, and family whose strength had faintly fallen to that of an intermediate family, no one told him about this news. If Bai Feng had not recognized the map of the Saint King's tomb that was announced by the Ouyang family and the item that family whose people had obtained, she would have gone to force them to ask for it. Hu Zhongqian probably did not know about the Saint King's tomb. Because it was a gift from a man, he had been too sad and kept it sealed. He did not want to know what was inside. Because no matter how many things and compensations he had, he could not get his Yen Yang back. Because this incident happened before the Ouyang family announced the news about the Saint King's tomb, and because there was nothing suspicious, it did not attract too much attention. If it was not because Luo Qingtong asked about it, and because Hu Zhongqian's request for medical help was still fresh in her memory, Hu Yinyang would not have remembered this incident. Wearing white with a cloak, Luo Qingtong's index finger tapped on the table. Did your father see that person's face? I'm not too sure about that. Hu Yinyang looked at Luo Qingtong and said, I'll call my father here for you, master. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded gently, then raised her hand to gently stroke the little fox's little head. Seeing its listless face, she immediately smiled and said, What's wrong? Is it not fun? Why are you unhappy? Yi Qianxian looked at her face, looked sad. He felt that in the time he spent with Luo Qingtong recently, he was on the same level as Yu Si Huang, that idiot. She did not know why he was unhappy? Yi Qianxian's life was an indescribable. It raised its paw and pulled at a big red flower that was clipped by its ear. Yes, it's a big red flower. Chapter 1379. Luo Qingtong thought the silver fox was getting impatient, so she adjusted the red flower on its ear. Then she called for the family who guards outside and asked them to take the silver fox out to play. But Yi Qianxian would rather die than submit. What a joke. He was tamed like a pet by this woman and it was okay to tease him like this. But if he was treated like this by someone else, he would kill them. Naughty little thing. Seeing the silver fox clinging onto her clothes with its claws, Luo Qingtong felt helpless and amused. She had never had a pet before, so she didn't know pets were such a troublesome little thing. Or was it that the little fox that Yi Qianren gave him was special? But it was Yi Qianxian who gave it to her, and it had the same eyes as the man. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong wouldn't have been so patient. Okay, let me play with you. That man really knew how to choose a gift. Choosing a little fox like this was because it was as arrogant and difficult to please as he was. But Luo Qingtong smiled as she watched the silver fox chase after the tiger she had modified. They ran around the house and chased after each other, which made her very happy. Such a lively and mischievous personality, it was completely different from Yi Qianmin. Luo Qingtong smiled and supported her forehead with her hand as she thought. She didn't know Yi Qianxian's heart was also very difficult to describe. When he was with other people, he was able to suppress the nature of the little fox's body. But when he was with Luo Qingtong, he didn't know if it was because of his instinct to relax in front of this woman, or if it was because of some other reason, but the nature of the little fox's body was completely exposed. He was like a wild horse that had escaped its reins. Yi Qianxian's heart twitched and he didn't want to see himself like this. Ah! The silver fox leaped in front of the cloth tiger and used its claws to hold down the fake tiger that was running around. Then the silver fox roared in front of the cloth tiger, jumped on it and bit it. It was as if he was really fighting with a big tiger. Luo Qingtong could not help but laugh. Even Hu Yinyang couldn't help but laugh when she saw how cute the silver fox was. This little fox was simply too adorable. He wondered where his master had found her. Moreover, his strength seemed to be very strong. Previously, when Hu Yinyang was at the family Hu Hall, he had seen the little fox make a move in an emergency. It had almost sent great-granduncle flying with a swipe of its paw. This wasn't the strength of an ordinary demon beast. Even the cubs of sacred beasts didn't have such strength. Could it be that this little fox was the cub of a divine beast? And it's a super high-level one? As Hu Yinyang was thinking about this, the silver fox, which had been attacking the cloth tiger for a while, returned to Luo Qingtong's side with its lute. Ah! It barked at Luo Qingtong and then raised its paw to pat the little cloth tiger in front of it. For me? Luo Qingtong looked at the silver fox. The silver fox roared again as if it was answering her. Luo Qingtong couldn't help but pick up the little guy and kiss him. Good boy. Ah, I like it. Chapter 1380. Yi Qianxian did not expect his young fox body to have such a reaction. So, even if he had become an animal, he still instinctively loved this woman? He wanted to give her the best thing he had? Yi Qianxian was thinking when Hu Zhongtian's voice came from outside. Young master. Hu Zhongtian's figure came in from outside. Hu Fei also came with him. Although Hu Yinyang sent someone to say that Luo Qingtong was looking for Hu Zhongtian, Hu Fei thought that he might be able to help. So he came with them. Father, big brother. Hu Yinyang called out to them. Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei nodded at her, then looked at Luo Qingtong. Young master, are you looking for me? Hu Zhongtian said to Luo Qingtong. I want to ask you, when you went to the Ouyang family to seek medical treatment, did you see the face of the man in white? Luo Qingtong had a feeling that the other party might be related to the Ouyang family's sudden announcement of the Saint King's tomb. Otherwise, the young master of the Ouyang family would have fallen sick when the Ouyang family announced the news of the Saint King's tomb. This matter might not be related in the eyes of others, but in Luo Qingtong's eyes, it was not necessarily so. If there was really someone behind the Ouyang family and told them about the Saint King's tomb, then using the opportunity of the Ouyang family seeking medical treatment to enter and contact them was the most inconspicuous way. After all, if they could investigate the Ouyang family before and after the announcement of the Saint King's tomb, how could others not investigate? However, it was normal for the young master of the Ouyang family to seek medical treatment for a strange illness. Basically, no one would pay attention to this matter. Not to mention that it would be related to the Ouyang family's announcement of the Saint King's tomb. Luo Qingtong thought so and suddenly narrowed her eyes slightly. That man in white must be strange. Yes. Hu Zhongtian nodded at this time. Previously, I was anxious to seek medical treatment for Fei. Although the other party rejected me, in the end I still rushed into the Ouyang family and saw that person. But I only took one look before I was taken out by the people of the Ouyang family. Hu Zhongtian recalled the scene at that time. He had been too impulsive back then. However, Hu Fei had been unconscious and paralyzed in bed for more than 10 years without waking up. Now that a very powerful person had suddenly appeared in the Ouyang family and cured young Master Ouyang's strange illness, Hu Fei was naturally unwilling to give up so easily and made a final gamble. Although he did not succeed in the end, he saw the face of the white-robed man. Okay, draw his face, Luo Qingtong said. Okay. Hu Zhongtian nodded and then asked someone to prepare a brush, ink, paper and inkstone for him. Not long after, the family guards who had been ordered to retrieve the items returned. Hu Zhongtian took the brush, ink, paper and inkstone from the other party's hand and spread the paper in front of Luo Qingtong. Then he drew the face of the man in white on it. Looking at the face of the man in white that Hu Zhongtian drew, Luo Qingtong's face was slightly shocked. Then she laughed. It's actually her. Master, do you know this person? Hu Yinyang looked at the face drawn by Hu Zhongtian and asked. Not only do we know each other but we are very close. That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.